Hey, it's news from heaven. Here is when the sun will go dark and the moon will no longer shed its light, or the moon will not shed light. Is this an event that we're looking for out in the sky, or is it something we're looking for collectively in the psyche of the human race? Is it something we're looking for inside ourselves? Is it some combination of the two? Is it nothing, and why am I talking about it? No, it's something, and it's something that we can apply. And actually, there's a very cool astral object, outer space thing, analogy, correspondence in here as well. What more could you ask for? Thanks for hanging out. The point is, what does this do for the world inside of us? Right? If we're learning something about this prophecy, you guys know this like a biblical prophecy that I'm talking about here, right? The sun will go dark, the moon will not shed its light. That's something that's freaked people out for centuries. What could it mean? And is it something that's relevant to the darkness and light we feel inside of ourselves? Let's start to think about internal darkness and internal light. And I'm sure you've had days where it feels like maybe sometimes it's triggered by what's going on in life. Sometimes it's not, when it just feels like the world is a dark place. Life is a dark thing. Generally, it's nighttime in existence. And then there are other times when it seems, even if perhaps things are difficult, that existence is friendly. That there does seem to be benevolence at a large scale out in life. And these two often compete within ourselves. They compete with the things we observe in the world around them. What's the night and what's the day in us? And is that having something to do with this prophecy? This is from Secrets of Heaven. This is the very beginning of Swedenborg's journey into relaying all of this information. You can download this for free. So let's get, what are we getting right in the beginning? This is also right near the beginning of his explanation of these puzzling sayings from the Bible. So let's start at number 32. Love and faith, our great duality in the form of it happening in our hearts and minds, are first called the great lights. Then love is called the greater light and faith the smaller light. It is said that love will rule during the day and faith will rule during the night. We've said a bunch of words. Do they mean anything? I don't know, but let's keep track of them, right? Because you never know. So we've got this idea of the rule during the day. Love rules during the day. What does that even mean? You feel you're nicer when it's between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And faith will rule during the night. Okay. We've got that in there, and let's see if we can unpack what it means. But already, we've equated what could be looked at as celestial or astral objects. Is that even what astral means? Astral or celestial objects, the sun and the moon. Or how do you draw the moon? It's got some craters. Okay, this is the moon. We already are equating things that are objects out in the solar system with states of mind in us. So we're saying that the sun is love, that the love is the greater light, and faith is the smaller light. So already, you've got some kind of little sun. Look at those sun rays, man. They're scattered. Sun and moon in us. Yeah, that's a picture of us. Okay, I will stop talking about my own drawing skills and just focus on the information. This is important, though. We're starting here knowing, okay, something's going on in us. We're already sort of taking this out of the sky and into the mind. Because this information is unknowable and less accessible than ever at this time, 17XX, as Swedenborg was releasing this material, the end of an era, as he said, that was a low point in some ways for human consciousness. And hopefully we've been on the upswing since then. The Lord in his divine mercy, not consciousness, but really in empathy. Right? People were pretty smart as compared to maybe some years before, but empathy. The Lord in his divine mercy has allowed me to lay open the true situation, which is really what Swedenborg believes is this state of his mission here. Because there is, and why? It's not because, some people want to know, why do you guys care about Swedenborg? We don't particularly care about Swedenborg. He's a guy, I don't really know much of the details of his early life, and nor do I care much. There are plenty of people who know those, but it's not really about him. What it's about is the true situation. That's the only reason we're spending time here. Is he laying open the true situation? And where does that come from? Well, the truth can only come from God. There's the spiritual sun shedding that light of truth out. There's only one source of truth. And why, if we do have some truth squeaking through this crack that it was named Swedenborg, what is the purpose? Why would God do that? It's because it's out of love for the human race. Because if we're saying, look, the minds of people are closed off, let's draw a closed off mind here, and it's hard for God to get in, this mechanism here of Swedenborg's writings are, let's say, if we can't take this in directly, it's bouncing off. Somehow it's acclimated to a format here where we can take it in and learn what was unknowable and not accessible. It's especially well hidden in these final days because the close of the age has arrived and almost no love exists. That's no good. If you got almost no love, that's a problem. Consequently, almost no faith. Okay. So these things are linked, and I think you would find some people in Swedenborg's day very much saying, wait a second, there's very much faith. We've got there's tons of churches going on. This is an age in which, church and state, what is this? We're going to draw some scales. Oh, I said I wouldn't talk about my drawing scales. So you got church and state were the same thing. So how can you say there's no faith? The public life was run by faith. People the laws were based on Christianity. How could it be that there's almost no faith? Well, actually, religious concepts are not faith without love, which I'm just itching to talk about the sun and the moon again. I'll hold off for just a second. But when no love exists, consequently, no faith. When you don't have love for the human race driving you, religious concepts are not faith because of the actual effect of those concepts. If you don't have genuine love driving it, it actually doesn't help your spirit. It actually harms your spirit, and it doesn't help the human race. It actually harms the human race. So it's not just, it's not nice enough, so it's not faith. The impact is the opposite. Faith is measured by its impact, and there's no impact when there's no love. The Lord predicted this event in the words recorded in the Gospels. So before, early in this Secrets of Heaven, we were talking about the sun and the moon as regards the creation story. But here you have linking that to the words of Jesus in Matthew 24, which is this famous biblical passage that I'm talking about. The sun will go dark, and the moon will not shed light. Title. And the stars, that was dumb. And the stars will fall down from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. A lot of people, right, are saying, that's scary. The world is going to end. Let's live like the world is going to end. What is it talking about? Either way, it doesn't sound that great. But why is Jesus saying this? And it hasn't happened yet. Is it just going to happen? Or is he talking about something that already has happened or that happens all the time? The sun here means love, which has gone dark. Correspondential language. Without parables spake he not. The sun here means love. And really, to talk about the sun is a little beneath God. If Jesus is God, the sun is a one star out of a million trillion stars, right? And the sun has a limited lifespan. We really like the sun. Let's draw the sun over here because we are going to need the sun again in a minute. We really like the sun. We're big fans of the sun. The sun is responsible for the raw energy and heat and everything needed to sustain the biosphere. We got to have the sun. But it's one star out of a jillion stars, and it's got a limited lifespan. The sun will, unless our science is drastically wrong, but I don't think so. The sun will go dark, will explode or contract or whatever this particular size of star does when it gets to the end of its fuel cycle, and then it's going to be gone. And does that mean at that time the words of God are no longer relevant? He's talking about the sun, but the sun no longer exists. So if God speaks something, it's true for like 1 billion years, or even 100 billion years, or 500 billion. I don't know how long they're actually predicting. But then it's not true anymore? Or is he talking about something eternal? How God talks about eternal things. And love And the choice between love and no love is eternal. And the cycles that humanity goes through are eternal. And this is actually the stuff that's much more important even than the sun. The sun here means love, which has gone dark. The moon means faith, which is not shedding light. Okay, so we've got the sun, and then we got the moon meaning faith. So let's start to map out, how are you going to say that the sun means love and the moon means faith? What's that talking about? Well, let's think about the actual setup of sun, moon, and our planet. So if we've got the sun there, we got the moon here, and we've got our little existence right here on Earth. If you happen to be, we experience this dynamic between sun and moon all the time, of course. So we're here. This is the dark side of the Earth. This is night. This is also a picture of our mind. So just like as Earth turns, you got a person here who is living in a daylight state. And you think physically a daylight state is, look, there's light all around. It's warmer. You feel safe because it's harder to hide what you're doing, and so you know people are less likely to sneak up and attack you and everything in the day. That's the daytime. When it's a nighttime state, when we're over here, we don't have the benefit of that. We do get some light here, right? Especially full moon, you can really it changes the makeup of what you can see and everything. And what is that moon? The moon is a reminder that the sun is there. And really, the moon is not generating any light, but it serves as a reflection so that this light can get around the curvature of the Earth and come in way less intensity and really, than it was there. But still, something comes to us there. So he's saying, this is what living in love is like, and this is what having to live. This is the role that faith can serve. So there are states that we get into where it's obvious what needs to be done. It's obvious we're feeling love, and that guides our life, and that makes it self-evident that there is, that there is something good out there, that life is hopeful. All the things that would come in with a religious or spiritual existence. But when we get to this hard stuff in our life, you really just have these ideas in your mind that, okay, there is something good out there, even though I'm not feeling it right now. I can't see it. I don't experience it firsthand. I know it's out there. I can remember it. I know times when it's helped me. I'm clinging to these concepts because these concepts are allowing me to get an indirect view of the truth that's over here. That is the sun and the moon. How cool is that as a description of the psychological state? Because anybody, even if you're sitting around saying, look, I really follow a spiritual tradition, I'm really principled and all that, there are times I know when it just feels like the sun. It just feels like, yes, everything is clicking, this is real, this is good. And as well, when things are going well for you in your life and you're just feeling like life is good. But then there are these times when it's night in the mind and you're just clinging to the hope and the remembrance, and you where are you, God? Where is my help? And it's just this little bit of like think of the difference between the way the sun feels on you versus looking at the moon. The moon can be beautiful and everything, but it's a much different experience. That is the faith and the love. But it's not to say that the moon is lesser or isn't good. Without the moon, when it's night, you wouldn't have anything. Right? So the moon is there. And some people, by now, we're going to get a lot of letters from people who like stars. Because people say, hey, there's stars. What are those? The stars mean religious concepts, the powers and forces of the heavens, which are falling down from heaven. And the stars will fall down from the sky. The power of heavens will be shaken. So faith is your aggregate affection and understanding of the truth. These stars that we see, these are little concepts, right, that keep us going when it's out there. But if they're falling down from the sky, it means they're no longer linked to this love in here. That instead they become self-centered, or I would say ego-centered, and fall down. The moon no longer sheds its light, because think about if you took the sun out of the equation, the moon is not going to do anything. The moon, faith, this again, him saying there's no love, consequently no faith. If there's nothing coming out of the sun, the moon may as well not exist because you can't see it. So love is primary. Faith gets its power from that love. The earliest church, meaning the first spiritual era in human history, the earliest church acknowledged no faith besides love itself. Heavenly angels, meaning the most open state you can get into after you die, have no idea what faith is if it's not a matter of love. You can't come and talk to me about, oh, look, I believe this thing, and this is the way things are, and yet I'm operating from cruel intentions that aren't just a zeal for the truth, but actually a disdain for other people, and actually sort of an inward belief in our superiority to other people. You can't talk to angels about that. You can't say, look, we both believe in thing X, so we're buddies. Angels, they'll talk to anyone, but what angels are really doing is the thing that gets them up in the morning is love for the welfare of everyone. And the faith is what enables them to carry that out. And by proxy, by sourcing, that's what God is. God is this love for everyone and operating through means by which to do it. You knew that already. You guys already know that. The entirety of heaven, controversial statement here. The entirety of heaven gives itself over to love. Not controversial, but as it should be. Because no other kind of life than that of love exists in the heavens. And that's what makes heaven heaven, by the way. It's the life of love that makes heaven heaven. Love is the source and can make heaven in our daily life. Love is the source of all their happiness, which is so immense that not a bit of it can be put into words or grasped in any way by the human mind. Why are we going on and on about love everyone, be loving? Well, I don't have time. I've got to take care of myself. The way to get free from all this negativity. This stuff has its power over us because it is trying to convince us of things contrary to love, which is essentially that there are these people out here and they are a problem. And really not even people, but really goodness and truth. Because it's good to love people, and you can always have an affection and a desire to help them, but there's limits. People are fluid things. If you have somebody you really care about them and really like them and you love them and to come over to my house, and then you find out that they've committed murder or something like that, you can still be concerned for their welfare, but you can't enable them in the same way. You have to say, you've got to turn yourself in or whatever. Really, and you can continue to want them to get better, but what you want them to do is come back to love and truth, right? That's what your continued aim is. That really what's out there to love is what's good and what's true, because this is what is beneficial to the whole human race. And our goal in ourselves and others should be to get towards what's good and true and to venerate and love and put on a pedestal these things, which, by the way, are the expression of God. God is the goodness and truth. To do that, to make that the focus, instead of make our own reputation the focus, that is what frees us. Our own reputation can be a great subservient thing that allows us to love what's good and true. But if it's trying to be the top thing, that is what reputation or power or whatever it is. There's a million ways that vice can be expressed. Undoing this and doing this is what makes us invulnerable more and more to the misery that what Swedenborg would call hell is trying to put in on us. So that's what the life of love is. Happiness. It's not a scam. It's not God saying, fall in line and do what I say, and heaven saying, yeah, this is how we are, do this or else. Hell, everything that's evil and is trying to sell you this competitive, negative, fear-based vision is trying to scam you. They are trying to use you for their own ends to make you more and more miserable, whereas God is trying to give you a life of love that is the happiest life you can possibly have. So that's not that bad. People who dwell in love to the Lord with all their heart, But they know, say, and perceive that all love comes from the Lord and from nowhere else, as does all life, which is the product of love alone, and so all happiness. This is a great description of what is heaven. What is heaven in the mind? So we'll read it one more time. People who dwell in love do love the Lord with all their heart. But they know, say, and perceive that all love comes from the Lord and from nowhere else, as does all life, which is the product of love alone, and so all happiness. They love what's good and true. That is the Lord personified. But knowing even that love, this is not something like, look at how much I love the Lord, but knowing that that is also coming from God and that this is part of the partnership. Not only the small measure of love, life, or happiness do they claim to possess on their own, a mystical saying, but this is key. This is how you get out of the maze and get into heaven. In the Lord's transfiguration, the great light, the sun, represented the fact that he is the source of all love, since his face shone like the sun, while his clothes became like the light. He is the source of all love. Even the love, so the love we can have for these other people, the love we can have for ourselves, God is, like the sun, is the source of all energy for, ultimately for all the processes that happen on earth. God is the source of all the stuff that lives and grows inside of us. His face symbolizes the deepest level of being, while clothes symbolize the things that issue from those levels. So the sun, love, means the Lord's divinity and light, the wisdom that rises out of his love, his humanity. So, it's not so bad. Let me just see if I want to finish 33. Nah, you can continue. Go ahead, download this book, go in there. There's a lot more cool stuff, but we're out of time for today. That's the news from heaven. And if I were to summarize the news from heaven, it would say, look, so when the sun goes dark and the moon doesn't shed light is when we are operating, and really the human race is operating out of the opposite of that heavenly mindset, which is instead of saying, I want to participate in this awesome thing, which is the Lord's love, which treats everyone equally, treats everyone fairly, and honors what's good and true, and pushes us in that direction, versus, instead I want to go after what is competitive and what is antagonistic and what is self-serving and ultimately worthless. When we go after that, that darkens the sun, which ruins the worldviews that we have, which are supposed to lift us up, so that faith then no longer gives its light, and that pulls the stars down, and we find ourselves in total darkness. That is what happens if we don't take the hand that's outstretched to us to say, go for love. And it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. You have to make that choice. God is throughout our entire life giving us the means. And you can see this is the struggle we know we're all on, of trying to find out how to get to love despite all the confusion around all that stuff. So that is the sun and moon inside of ourselves. And we can make it so that when it's daytime, when life is going well, we embrace that love and really stretch out in that sun and make it part of us. And then when it's in the night, we keep focused on not on the darkness, but on the light that is coming from that, knowing that when it comes back around, when life gets better again, the sun will be there again. Okay, I'm done. Thanks everybody so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. This helps us get out there. Check out all of our other videos. Come to the offTheLeftEye experience, which will be happening this summer. We'd love to hang out with you and go in depth on some of these concepts. We'll see you soon.